Greetings, I am Erin Patton, metaphysical master in a millennial age, and it is my life's purpose to guide you and organizations along an enlightened path. So I invite you to sit comfortably and tune in as I welcome you to the Meta Business Millennial, where we get the real conversations you won't get in the boardroom so that we understand this is exactly the path we need to be on in order to grow, evolve, and thrive. All right, y'all. Greetings. I am Erin Patton, also known as Master L, and welcome to today's live episode of the Meta Business Millennial podcast. We are live across all social media platforms. We're live on Instagram, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. And I'm just so happy to be with you all here today on this beautiful Wednesday evening. And I am just honored, of course, to share my light with you, share my wisdom, my knowledge with you. And if you haven't already, I really invite you to just subscribe to my channel, share this message with a friend if you feel so called, and of course, comment as you're watching. Leave me a DM if you don't want to leave like a public comment. I'm here for all of the conversations, okay? So without further ado, I really want to jump in today's episode because we're talking about how to live a more balanced life. You know, I talk to a lot of my clients and friends and peers. A lot of women are struggling with finding balance. Like we have the career on lock, we have the work on lock, but the challenge is how do we do all of that and still have some sense of composure, some sense of peace, some sense of time for self? And there seems to be less and less of that self-care time unless, you know, you're like going on a vacation or, you know, like, and very few of us are taking that time. Okay. So I really want to go through how we can remove our toxic habits, because if it's not serving us, if it's not self-care, then it might as well be toxic, right? If it's not doing us good, then in many ways it could be doing us harm. So we want to be able to do an audit, if you will, of our life and just see like how can we really enjoy and explore and live in alignment with our highest purpose, because that is what we came here to do. Okay. And so it really starts, like I mentioned before, with this audit. Like, you know how you do audits in companies and you really want to make sure that you're on target with your finances, and you may even do the same with yourself, with your budget, etc. But how are you doing when you're checking your energy, like your energy audit? Like, have you ever really looked at your life, looked at your lifestyle, and just seen like, okay, where am I leaking energy? Like what relationships are serving me? What relationships aren't serving me? How am I doing in my career? How am I doing with my job and my work? And you really want to start looking at all these different aspects of yourself, of your energy, if you will, how you spend your energy, who gets your energy, and do a real audit. And I want to talk, before we get too deep into this, around actually what is energy, what is spirituality, what is this metaphysical thing, Erin, that you're always talking about? Okay, so let's get into that. Okay, you guys. So I'm gonna pull up this map of consciousness here. Nice. This is by Dr. David Hawkins, and it's from his book, The Map of Consciousness. And it is a beautiful matrix for all of us, you know, logical, color-coded thinkers out here. I'm one of them who need a map, okay, to help me understand what is going on. And this is essentially evidence-based, evidence-backed experiments that help us understand how our consciousness, which is essentially the spiritual aspect of ourselves, the invisible aspect of ourselves, the unseen aspect of ourselves, broken down on a scale, if you will. And actually 80% of the world lives below this line. You know, this line right here is that demarks this. Hello, everybody out there. Good day. But going back to this, about 80% of the world lives below this line of pride, if you will, this line that goes straight across, that separates pride and courage in the yellow. So many of our politicians, of our governmental leaders, our military leaders are really operating from this level of pride, essentially. And when we're thinking about like force, our weakness, how many of us are living in a state of fear, anxiety. Literally one of the most popular songs on the radio today is Anxiety by Doechii. And there's no coincidence about that because many of us are living in this anxiety fear state. And if you look at fear and anxiety, essentially that's number 100. So we are sitting square, like almost in the middle of where many of the population around the world is sitting. Most of the population around the world is sitting, and why we can easily be controlled. We're always hearing about mind control. We're always hearing about programming. Well, those that are in power are really literally sitting a few steps above us in that pride category where they're wanting to, really have this dominance, if you will, this forceful dominance over the world. And for those that, you know, there is this idea that there is like an elite that's really running the world. And so, not that it's necessarily about conspiracies here, but it's really just about understanding what's happening, in terms of leadership and where we sit energetically. And all of that to the side, whether it's about leadership or dominance or mind control or any of these things that we may hear on the internet or anywhere else, we want to understand, where does our energy sit? Where does our energy lie? And essentially our energy can be essentially reflected here on this graph. And so when we're operating from a level of a fear, of anxiety, we're having a very low level of energy. So when we're struggling to get things done, when our minds are clouded, when we're operating in a fog, it's generally because our emotional state is at a low state. And sometimes we need to get some rest. Sometimes we need to do some energy clearing, some energy healing. This is the work that I do and I always speak about. Then that helps us to rise in our consciousness, rise in our energetic capacity, rise in our emotional capacity. So this is what I mean when I say we need to do an energy audit, because when we start to understand how we're spending our energy, is it in a fear, anxiety, anxious, grief-stricken state, or is it in a love, a joy, a peaceful state? And the more we can start to understand who in our lives brings us love and joy and in peace, what in our life brings us love and joy and peace, then we can start spending more time with those people. We can start spending more time doing those things that actually bring us joy, that actually bring us love. And so all those things that don't bring us joy, all those things that don't bring us love, that make us feel anxious, that make us feel clouded, or make us feel ashamed, or make us feel anything less than that, we need to do an audit of and remove it from our life, essentially. So this is what I mean about the energy audit, is we want to start thinking about those things in our life, those relationships, those environments, those habits that we have in our life that really preclude us from living our highest, our greatest potential. And that's where we start, is really doing that energy audit. And so how this energy audit works, I actually have created what I call the energy wheel. And it's an exercise that we'll do together today that really helps us dig a little bit more deeply into how we're spending our time, into how we're devoting our energy, and how we can really allow more flow in our lives so that we can have more of this balance that so many of us are seeking, okay? So let's get to this energy wheel right here. Yeah, so where your focus goes, energy flows, you guys. And I know we hear so much of this from Tony Robbins and from Dr. Joe Dispenza, and all these other very famous intellectuals who speak the same language as I do. And, we're all here to teach a very similar methodology and ethos around energy management, essentially. And we've learned so much about how to manage our businesses, how to manage our lives, how to manage, all of these things. We really want to understand how we can manage our personal life, how we can manage our family life, how we can manage our self-care in a way that our energy is flowing in those directions that really amplifies us and pours back into us so that we can give more to others, give more to the work that we're doing, and being able to attract more of that abundance that we always are seeing in these manifesting videos. Like, how are we doing that? How are people doing that? Where they're doing it by managing this energy and understanding how their energy flows. Okay, guys? So let's get to it. So this next piece is around understanding how you're allocating your energy, okay? So first, I want you to write out how you're spending your time essentially. So there are 168 hours in a week. 168 hours in a week. So if you can guesstimate like how much time you spend working in a week, how much time you spend sleeping in a week, how much time you spend with your family, how much time you spend in spiritual and faith-based work, spend how much time you spend with your community, how much time you spend exercising or moving your body or walking, how much time do you spend in self-development, eating, cooking for yourself, watching TV, entertaining yourself, going out with friends, so really take some time right now to look at how you're spending your life. And as you're writing out these hours next to each activity, you want to begin to make sure it all, first of all, adds up to 168 because there are 168 hours. And of course, these are, you know, guidances for how you should spend your time. But if you have other things that you're doing during the week, for example, for me, what I'll also do, time spending with my podcast. I guess you can consider that work. Or, time traveling. Some people spend a lot of time traveling for work. You can include too time traveling in that list. So find all the things in your life that you're doing right now and just write it down and put numbers next to it, how much time you're doing in per week. Okay. And now, as you're thinking about this, I want to kind of move over to the assessment piece because this starts to come up anyway as you're doing this, writing out like how you're spending your time, where you're putting your energy. I want you to really assess how you're feeling as you're writing this out. And of course, drop me a comment if you feel called. I'd love to hear from you, like how you're feeling when you assess how you're spending your time on a weekly basis. Because I know when I first did this exercise, I was really shocked about how little time I was spending on exercise, how little time I was actually spending with my family. I was spending so much time working and cooking and cleaning and doing other things around the house. I perceived that as family time because I'm around my family, but really like the conscious one-on-one quality time with my family, it really was minimal. So you want to be really honest with yourself about how you're spending your time and actually how you feel about it. Because if you're dissatisfied with how you're spending your time, like if you're not exercising enough or if you're working too much and you want some things to change, note that for yourself. Like, wow, I really wish I wasn't devoting so much of my time to work because I'm really not getting the return out of it. Or if you're seeing that, like, I'm not sleeping as much as I'd like to, and I know I need to get at least 7 hours of sleep. So that should be at least 49 on my list, and I'm right here at 35. Like, this is ridiculous. So I want you to sit with that and also understand, like, and start to think about what would you like to spend your time doing. What would you like to see for your life? Would you like to spend more time exercising? Would you like more time sleeping? Would you like more time with your family? And if you were to free up time in any of these categories, where would you maximize that? How would you maximize these hours differently if you had a chance to? And I'm going to give you that chance right about now. So as you are, assessing all of that you did for the first round, I want you to do a second round of this energy allocation and really start to look at how you can spend your time if you could choose how you could spend your time. So now review everything that we kind of went through in that first round, the questions you asked yourself, and really start to assess what activities would you like to be engaged in on a weekly basis and how much time would you like to be spending doing those things. So if you want more time with your family, add to it. If you want more time with with your sleeping, please adjust that. If you want more time on the self-development, on the spirituality, which I would always advocate for, definitely do that because I know that this is an opportunity for you to really want to develop yourself, and you got to be able to spend time for yourself. So definitely take that time to look at that. And as you are looking at how you want to spend your time, the next piece of this energy wheel is really to get a better idea of how you feel when you do these activities that you want to be doing. For example, This is something that I put together for myself and how I love to spend my time. And it essentially provides a focal point for all the amazing experiences, feelings, and opportunities you would like to invite into your life. So take some time to write out all the activities that bring you joy inside of the wheel, and also indicate a one-word feeling associated with that activity. And then write out all the activities that no longer serve you and the associated feelings on the outside of that wheel. So this is where the energy wheel comes into play. So for example, for me, I love my early morning routine. So that's me waking up, talking to God, praying to God, doing my affirmations, writing out what I like to see for myself, feel for myself for that day. Also, I love, like, for me, I'm really calling forth my divine mate, like the person I would like to spend the rest of my life with. I spend that time energetically communing with my divine mate. I spend time energetically communing with my spirit team, asking them for support in various areas of my life where I need support, whether it's around attracting more, resources for my business, for my care for my family, for, my home. I just moved into a new home. I really want to, new furniture and all these things. So I'm calling for the resources, and also talking to my spirit, to God, about my health, my body. You guys see me working out all the time. So that's also a piece of it. That helps me feel peaceful. So the yoga, the exercise really helps me feel restored. So being able to spend time at the gym, now I'm taking dancing lessons. So that really helps me to feel connected to my purpose, to my authentic self, to my creativity. So these are all things that I would put in the inside of my circle. I love to cook at home too. So cooking at home helps me to feel more wealthy, and being around my family helps me to feel, of course, loved. So being able to attach these really high emotions that we discussed earlier in this map of consciousness, and really helping us to ground ourselves and, okay, what in our life, what activities in our life bring us to those higher level of emotions, so we can experience higher levels of consciousness, higher energy levels. This is how I'm able to do so much in terms of managing and caring for an elderly parent, managing and caring for a toddler, managing and running an entrepreneurial business and real estate and investments, and being able to do all these things every single day. It requires a lot of energy. And I also do it from a place of love and gratitude and compassion and grace, and not anxiety and pressed and rushed and chaotic. Because trust me, y'all, I done been there. And when you're operating from those places, you're not able to see the results of and the returns that you really want to see. Because first of all, you're like giving from an empty cup. So if you're pouring out of an empty cup, what do you think you're gonna get? You're gonna get nothing. But if you're pouring from a full cup of love, of restoration, of peace, of wealth, then you're gonna absolutely get a beautiful return on those investments. So you want to be able to do that work. um and as you're also writing out those things on the side that are not bringing you the health and wealth, let's see here, and we can switch it up. Yeah, just putting it a little bit to the side so it's not blocking me too much. But as you're writing those things on the outside that don't bring you the love and the joy, for example, for me, scrolling endlessly on social media, scrolling endlessly on Instagram makes me feel drained, and eating fast foods, which I hardly do, but if I'm eating fast foods, like eating late night, or that definitely makes me feel guilty and not restored and not healthy. um Sleeping late, which is, sometimes good for me, but if it's too often, then I really am feeling unmotivated. I'm feeling like lazy a little bit, and certainly working too much. If I'm working too much, if I'm overthinking, then I need to sit down. You know what I'm saying? Then it's really frustrating. It gets me edgy. I'm really, snappy with my family, with my son, and it's really not, useful or healthy to continue to work longer and longer hours. So I want us to move into why all of this is important. And we can see here that when we're setting goals, like for example, if you are wanting to change your life, if you're wanting to sleep more hours, exercise more, lose weight, whatever your goal is, have more balance for yourself, have more peace for yourself, meditate more, then you want to be able to do it with intention. And that's what the emotions bring us back to. Because when we're setting goals, oftentimes the goal helps us, of course, to see the future and cast a vision and understand what we want and create a plan. Those are really great things. But the downside is it really takes us out of the moment. And when we don't hit those targets, we're oftentimes mad. We oftentimes feel like we fail, and it really diminishes the progress that we've made getting to that goal, And we don't want to feel like we're failing as we're progressing in life. We want to really celebrate ourselves every step of the way. Remember, this is not about punishment. This is not about judgment, this journey. This journey is about continuous improvement. It's about kaizen, the Japanese term. It's about kaizen. It's about continuous improvement. It's about loving ourselves. And it's about recognizing how we're progressing, recognizing how we're growing, and celebrating ourselves in the process. And this is where the intentions come into play and why the intentions are so important. Because as we're setting and living within these intentions, it allows us to focus on who we are in the moment. Like I said before, in that energy wheel, like waking up in the morning, even if it's for 10 minutes of doing my meditations, it reminds me to come back to myself. It reminds me of the energy that I want to carry. It reminds me to trust that God got my back, because I be going through things every day and I need God with me all the time. And so it reminds me to always come back to myself and know that I'm doing my best in every single moment and every single day. And it helps to provide that roadmap and that reminder for how we should live out each day. And I would also say that it inspires us, like being able to have that joy, being able to have that peace. What I like to say, being able to have that heaven on earth, like that's what I'm arcing towards. It's like heaven on earth. Fuck this hell existence. Fuck this hell state. I don't want it anymore. I don't want the devil horns. I don't want to, be bathed in blood. I don't believe that any of that is serving any of our highest good. It's keeping us in anxiety. It's keeping us in fear. And it is time to let that go. And obviously, this is where a lot of people have been. This is where a lot of us, may even still reside on some occasions. However, I'm leaving that behind. Like, this is why the toxic habits have to be removed if we want to have a balanced life. We want to be able to understand and be inspired and motivated to achieve this heaven on earth, to achieve this balance and make the most of this experience that we're having. And so I really want us to kind of like get grounded. I hope this energy will exercise is really helpful for you guys in understanding how to do that energy audit for yourself, and knowing that the habits that we may have, whether it's not sleeping enough or working too much or not prioritizing our family, not prioritizing ourselves, most importantly, it can change. And that change starts with a very simple audit of yourself. So you're able to take this energy wheel, like if I went kind of fast through it, don't worry, like you can always replay it, rewind it. I certainly can also provide a link to this energy wheel in the show notes for this episode so that you can always refer back to it if you need to, so that you can continually come back to like, okay, how am I spending my time every week? Because you want to track all those days, because we have our weekends too, where we could be pouring more to ourselves, but we may spend it volunteering. We may spend it giving more of ourselves away, when in reality, yes, our community is great, but our community cannot be any better if we not any better. So we have to come back to ourselves. We have to come back to what we need for our cup to be full in order for us to pour into other people, whether it be our work, our children, our parents, our friends, our loved ones, our partners. And we want to be able to do that with a full cup, you guys. Okay. So I want us to really kind of get grounded in that energy wheel. And if you have questions, certainly let me know. Again, in the comments, shoot me a DM. I would really love to hear from you all around how this exercise resonates with you. What did you learn about yourself when you did that, first round of looking at your week? What did you learn about yourself when you came back and did the second round of the energy audit and saw how you like your week to be structured? And then when you did the actual wheel and started to attach emotions to it, what emotions were you feeling? Were you wanting to feel more of that peace? Were you wanting to feel more of that spaciousness for myself? Were you wanting to create and dedicate some of that time to yourself? And if you need support in doing that, holler at me, because this is what I specialize in. I feel like so many people want to create that space and don't know how. People want to learn how to meditate and don't know how. Like I know that a lot of people don't even really understand the definitions of energy and spirituality. So that's why I started with that map of consciousness at the beginning of this episode, so we can really have an understanding of what is energy, and we can really begin to grow in that and understand how our emotions are tied to our energy, are tied to our consciousness, and are tied to our experiences and our happiness and the fullness of our lives. So certainly give me a holler, give me a shout, and actually you can DM me, or you can go to my website, erinpatton.com, to book a call with me. You can just shoot me a note in the contact form if that's easier for you. But DM is really easy, and we can set up some time to do a meta clarity call, talk about how this exercise resonates with you, talk about how you can be fully supported in your journey towards more self-care and towards more balance, because I am here for you. Okay. So if this is sort of like wraps up today's episode, I'm really, really happy that I was able to take this time to share my work with you. The energy wheel, the energy audit experience, because it's really important to really assess at all times who's in your life, what's in your life, what can be removed from your life, what's serving you, what's not serving you, and continuing to do that assessment on a day-to-day basis. Because the more you're able to be clear about what you want, put your order into the universe. Like I always say, you can get back what you want. Okay. It may not happen immediately, because certainly like I have big requests from God, from the universe, and it's not here right now. But I'm doing the work every single day and trusting the process and trusting the journey and getting there. So thank you so much again for your time. I hope this was of great service to you. And if you're interested in learning more from me, of course, erinpatton.com is my website. I'm across social media at I am Erin Patton. And you can also listen to this podcast every week, wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm a business millennial. I'll see you soon. Much love and light. Peace. Did you really love this episode of the Meta Business Millennial Podcast? Well, I am honored, and I appreciate you subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it with your friends, because your feedback allows us to co-create more enlightened conversations. And if you're interested in growing your soul now, head over to my website, erinpatton.com, to find all the show notes, links, and free resources to get your energy activated today. In the meantime, stay bright, my friends. Much love and light. Peace.